Dear students, good morning. Let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 10th July 2018. The first article, the measure of tests. You know that government has recently announced to conduct the JEE exam twice in a year. And you also know that NEET exam is one single common entrance test throughout the country for medical entrance today. Previously, students has to apply for different examinations, different universities. It was a huge cost and also logistically a nightmare to the parents. Now, the recent initiative, how it will help the students. Now, student gets greater flexibility to decide when he wants to write the exam. And second, a computer based examination, it will provide logistically manageable system for the government. If you take United States of America, almost all the entrance examinations are being computer based. We have to create an agency for this purpose. A national testing agency was recommended from very long. Either it is CBSE exam or it is related to any board exam for that matter. We need to have a testing agency. But one wrong thing happened in the Western countries because of these computerized exams, etc., is increase in cost of the examinations. If you take GRE, GMAT, USMLE, everything is a very expensive exam. So, how to keep the costs under control is the major challenge. And the second thing is, we are talking about cost of coaching itself. Whenever there is a disruption in a test system, uncertainty prevails and coaching industry flourishes out of this uncertainty. If this has to end, we need to be very clear to the parents how this particular system works. Transparency makes a big achievement in the entire process. And second, there is a committee, Ashok Mishra committee, which has clearly recommended for a national testing agency and also how to undermine the coaching industry in India, especially at the level of schooling and also at the level of college. So that need to be taken seriously. Now, in this context, I want to talk about Japanese education system. Japan system is known for its equity. What do we mean by this? When we say equity in education, the learning outcomes by and large have to be same. That depends upon the quality of school education system. In India, the school education system has wide difference between private public schools. So, unless we are able to control this difference, improve learning outcomes, we cannot bring in equity. The first rule to bring in equity is strengthening the public education system and also providing for wider access to this public education system. In a capitalistic country such as US, the public education system is still very strong. These are the points we need to understand. And then, living in uncertain times. Uncertainty exists everywhere. Today, the common word which we use is disruption. So, what is this disruption is? Any existing process is disrupted and created into a new process, and technology is invariably becoming a tool, and most of the startups does this. Because of the artificial intelligence, fast changing environment around us, we are in uncertain times. You know, the world today is more fluid than before. So, at the global level, at the international affairs level, you can see Maldives is able to threaten India, and similarly, Yemen is able to threaten entire the Arab world. So, in this context, the global relations are changing. North Korea and US relations, how they took a U-turn, is typical example of disruption. Government of India claims that Niti Aayog is a disruption. In this context, we are making a watershed between the past and the future by taking certain initiatives now. That's why it has been stated disruptions are going common. And in this, how India will be placed in the global affairs is a major challenge. At the world, if you observe, let us keep China, Russia, Turkey on one side. On the other side, Germany, USA, India, and all these countries. What is the fundamental difference between these two? This first group is more an authoritarian or dictatorial. The second group is democratic. When Trump has come into power in USA, Germany was said to be the leader of the liberal world. But today, Angela Merkel herself is facing a trouble. Christian Democratic Union and Social Union parties, they are not able to run the government on the expected lines. And if you go to France, Emmanuel Macron is still yet to stabilize himself. And you know, the opposition, like Maria Le Pen's party, it is more and more conservative. And UK is, after Brexit, the internal conflicts within the parties, both Labour and Conservatives, are increasing. And then coming to India, opposition and governing party, the BJP and its alliances, they are unable to see eye to eye. There is a wide gap which was never seen before in Indian politics. At least from Nehru to PV Narasimha Rao time, even after that during Manmohan Singh's time, there was consensus with regard to foreign affairs are concerned. Now, the parliament knows little about the conduct of the government with regard to foreign affairs. So, in this scenario, explaining to the people, building the consensus is very much important. So, if I figure these groups in terms of stability versus instability, so the dictatorial regimes appearing to be more stable and the disruption appears higher and stronger among the democratic systems. This is bringing the democracy itself into question. And the next part of this is India and its ties with various countries. Let's talk about USA, China, Russia. Now, Prime Minister Modi, when he came to office, India's relations with US were on upswing. You know, President Obama visited India, and India has enhanced the defense cooperation with USA and 2 plus 2 dialogue, India being declared as a major defense partner by the United States of America. All these are examples. India is the only country to which Trump has promised to give drones. But today, 2 plus 2 dialogue is postponed. US is trying to pressurize India on issues of Iran buying defense equipment from Russia, and trade relations are also getting worsened. And few months back, US has declared Pakistan as supporting terrorism, and it has unequivocally supported India's stand, and it also stated Russia and China are its major threats. India is an ally. But today, this environment is changed for together. And second, coming to China, we have a fast path that is pending border dispute. And Doklam standoff is eased but not resolved yet. And China is making fast inroads into India's neighborhood. You can see one after the other, India's neighbor is becoming hostile to it. It is Nepal, Maldives, these are becoming slowly hostile. So, this is also an unstable relationship. And third is Russia. Russia, I can put it as an all weather friend of India, is moving away from India and is also becoming close to Pakistan. Defense agreements were never signed between Pakistan and Russia before, but it is becoming a new normal for India. And India wants to buy Triumph S-400 missiles from Russia. But there's a new act that has come up in USA that is called CASA Act. Countering American adversaries through Sanctions Act. This act has kept the Russia on limelight. It means that if India does trade with Russia, buys defense equipment from Russia, then India can become victim of this CASA Act. And here the question of strategic autonomy of India comes into picture. At the Singapore dialogue, Prime Minister Modi has critically stated this. It is not towards any group or any country. India wants to maintain its strategic autonomy. If India bows to the pressure of United States of America, obviously the strategic autonomy is in peril. That is what is the pillar of our foreign policy from the times of Nehru, which got diluted in the name of transactional foreign policy or multipolar foreign policy with some fancy names. And then, in need of a practical plan. So, judiciary suffers from lack of sufficient personnel. As of now, the existing system is High Court gives the notification, along with the state government, they recruit the judges. And this recruitment is at two levels. One is at the district judge level, the other one is at civil judge junior divisions level. Now, the regular schedule do not exist. It is highly erratic, and the number of posts there is no predictability. So, in this context, unless this system is streamlined, the courts cannot function, lower judiciary cannot function effectively. So, here Malik versus UPPSC Supreme Court has given a judgment which states there has to be an annual calendar and a time schedule to complete the recruitment. And this article argues that we need to have greater flexibility because smaller states which have got lesser requirement of judges can perform better compared to larger states. Between Himachal Pradesh and versus Maharashtra, it is natural that the process can get delayed in Maharashtra as the recruitment to the post is much higher. So, keeping that discussion aside, our constitution clearly states recommends for all India judicial services. I think it is the time we create all India judicial services and proper training is being given to our judiciary. Don't blame it on WhatsApp. Recently, lynchings have increased in India. Mob violence is increased in India. The first question is, do we have a legal framework to face the mob violence? And do we have the sufficient data on mob violence in India? Whenever a mob violence happens, the police face a dilemma how to book a case, and then, as there is no proper law for this, how to get these people to justice? All these questions still remain. And most of the mob lynchings, one or the other way, have the political cover. And communal violence faces the same situation in India too. In this scenario, we have to ensure greater political unity in solving this problem of mob violence in India. So, for this, the legal system has to be, our law has to be created, an entire criminal justice system has to be reformed. Just blaming on the WhatsApp is not the way. WhatsApp is an instrument, and regulating the use of WhatsApp is not a big deal for the government. More than the WhatsApp, our legal, judicial, and governance systems, these have to change. That is the essence of this article, and accountability and transparency is the rule. High on atmospherics. It is about a drug problem in Punjab. You know that Punjab is a border state and it is also a rich and wealthy state. But however, the economic stress among the farmers is increasing, and then poppy is widely grown in Punjab, and these drug networks have deep connections with the politics. So, in these circumstances, curbing this menace is very difficult. So let me put it in a perspective. How shall we solve a problem? First, we need to understand the problem. Understanding the problem means the definition of the problem, scope of the problem, and then people affected, reasons for their involvement, everything we need to understand. As of now, there is no effort was made in Punjab to understand the problem. And then intervention has to come. Without understanding the problem, any intervention will be superficial. Recently, government of Punjab has announced that every government employee has to go for a dope test. And they want to create, or they created a task force to curb these drug networks. So let us understand. Is drug abuse a socio-economic problem or a law and order problem, or both? I can put it as both. So, in this context, seeing that just as a law and order problem, our ethical problem is not right. So, providing for hospitals and medical management for the drug abuse is very critical. As our understanding of the problem is very superficial, our solution just reflects that. And finally, any intervention has to be evaluated, but no such effort towards monitoring or evaluation is done. So that's why correction of the problem appears to be superficial. Divide and fool. So, this is about mainstream media. You know that discrediting an institution today in the social media world is very easy. Everywhere this discrediting happens, just a small amount of displeasure is leading to discrediting. People are responsible for that, governments are responsible for that. So, in this context, this discrediting is further increased. Today, discrediting of the civil society is quite a norm. So, the discrediting of the protest itself, by branding the protest as anti national, as pro Naxal, pro terrorist, etc., is leading to decrease in democratic spaces in the country. And if in the long run, all the public spaces, public institutions will face this legitimacy crisis more or less sooner. And then Japan floods. Remember, for a severity of the flood in Japan, the death toll should be very high. But why is it so low? So here, Japan can be a typical example for you to quote in answers for disaster management. You know this Yokohama Protocol, all these are have come from the Japan itself. The earthquake management, no country has perfected this as like Japan. So try to understand this management plan for disasters in Japan. And Daiichi, breakdown of the nuclear reactor, how Japanese have managed it, itself is a worth example for their commitment. So with regard to creation of India's disaster management systems, there is a lot to learn from Japan so that for example, we can quote this as an example. And then institutions of eminence list announced. A committee was appointed under former Chief Election Commissioner Gopalaswamy Iyengar to identify institutions of eminence. So in this, the IITs, Indian Institute of Science, and Birla's, this Pilani, all these have come into existence. So today, financial independence is bringing in greater autonomy to the institutions. So all these institutions are financially independent from the government. Obviously, they will have greater academic freedom. So that is the point I want to stress based on this. Finally, Supreme Court says it is ready to go live. So it means the courtroom argument will be given live to the people. When it is exposed to the people, disruptions in the courtroom will decrease. It also decreases the cost of travel to the people all the way to Delhi. So, other issues are, what about the privacy concerns of the parties? If the parties are not interested to get their issues or to get their trial to be telecasted live, then how it has to be addressed? This is still the question. Instead of that, why can't we record and transmit it live only where the approval of the concerned parties exist? That can be one way out. So these are the articles for today. So because of the doctor's advice, I have stopped it for 15 days and I am back, and I will try to be regular to you. And I think within 1 or 2 days, I will also resume preparation of notes. Thank you very much.